Bimbo's life had taken a beautiful turn. After so much pain, betrayal, and heartache, she had finally found happiness again with Alex. He was everything Kevin had never been: kind, compassionate, and supportive. Together, they built a peaceful life filled with love and mutual respect. Every day, Bimbo felt grateful for the second chance at happiness she had been given. Alex adored her, and she adored him. Their home was filled with warmth, laughter, and a sense of contentment that Bimbo had longed for during her previous marriage. Alex's mother, who had fully recovered thanks to Bimbo's support, had moved in with them, adding to the joy in their lives. Bimbo had never felt so fulfilled. But life, as it often does, had its complexities. Kevin, having lost everything, his job, Malika, and any shred of dignity, began trying to reach out to Bimbo. At first, he simply called her office, then he started leaving messages with mutual acquaintances. He wanted to see her, to talk. For a long time, Bimbo refused. She didn't need to hear his excuses or relive the pain of his abandonment. She had moved on, and she was happy. But as the months went by, Kevin's attempts became more desperate. Bimbo could sense the weight of his regret, the emptiness that now defined his life. Eventually, out of curiosity and a small flicker of compassion, she agreed to meet him. They met at a small cafe in the city. Kevin looked nothing like the confident man he had once been. He was gaunt, his clothes were shabby, and his eyes held the hollow gaze of someone who had lost everything. As Bimbo sat across from him, she realized that the man she had once loved was now a mere shadow of himself. "Bimbo," he began, his voice trembling slightly. I'm sorry." Bimbo remained silent, allowing him to continue. "I made mistakes," he said, fumbling with his words. "When you were in that coma, I didn't know how to handle it. I couldn't bear to see you like that. Every time I visited, it tore me apart. I started to feel like you would never wake up, and I was lost. I didn't know what to do." His voice cracked as he continued, desperation seeping into his words. "Malika was a mistake. I know that now. I thought she could help me forget, but she didn't. She only made things worse. I was weak, and I made the wrong choices, but it was because I didn't know how to cope. I'm so sorry, Bimbo." Bimbo looked at him, her emotions a whirlwind. She could hear the remorse in his voice, and part of her felt sorry for him. She had loved Kevin deeply once, and seeing him in this state stirred memories of their happier times together. But love wasn't enough to erase the betrayal he had inflicted on her. "I was the one in that coma," she said quietly, her voice steady but firm. "I was the one who needed support, and you left me. You moved on with another woman, and brought her into our home, while I was fighting for my life. How could you do that to me, Kevin?" Kevin lowered his head in shame. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he whispered. "I just want you to understand. I wasn't strong enough. I made terrible decisions because I was scared." He reached across the table, his hand trembling as he tried to take hers. "I know I can't change the past, but maybe we could start over." Bimbo pulled her hand back, shaking her head. "No, Kevin. There's no going back. I've moved on. I've found someone who loves me, who was there for me when you weren't. I'm with Alex now, and I'm happy." Kevin's face fell, the weight of her words crushing him. He had hoped, somewhere deep inside, that he could win her back, but now that hope was gone. I understand," he muttered, his voice barely audible. They sat in silence for a moment, the pain and regret hanging heavily between them. Kevin finally looked up, his eyes pleading. "I'm struggling, Bimbo. I've lost everything. I don't even have enough money to get by. I was hoping maybe you could help me. Just a little." Bimbo's heart ached for him, but she knew she couldn't go down that path. Not again. Kevin had made his choices, and he had to face the consequences. "No, Kevin," she said softly but firmly. "I can't help you. I'm with someone now, and it wouldn't be fair to Alex if I gave you money. You need to figure things out on your own." Kevin's face twisted in despair. He had come to this meeting with the hope that Bimbo might take him back, or at least help him in his time of need. But now, sitting across from the woman he had wronged, he realized just how deeply he had lost her. "I see," he whispered, his voice broken. "I understand." Bimbo stood, ready to leave. "I hope you find a way to rebuild your life, Kevin. But I can't be part of it anymore." As she walked away, she felt a mixture of emotions. She had once loved Kevin with all her heart, but now that chapter of her life was firmly closed. Her future was with Alex, and she had no intention of letting the past drag her back into the pain she had worked so hard to escape. After some time, Kevin continued calling Bimbo, pleading for more help. At first, she ignored his requests, but the guilt began to gnaw at her. Against her better judgment, she finally gave him some money. She didn't tell Alex about it, feeling a deep sense of shame, but somehow convincing herself that it was just a small favor to someone who had once been important to her. After all, she had moved on, and Kevin was just someone in need. But the guilt didn't go away. She noticed Alex becoming more distant. He had started noticing things: how she no longer answered her phone in his presence, how distracted she seemed even when they were together. Sometimes, she would come home late from work, using her busy schedule as an excuse. Whenever Alex asked her about it, she reassured him with a smile, brushing off his concerns. "Everything is fine," she would say, but deep down, Bimbo knew it wasn't. Meanwhile, Kevin kept pushing for more. The initial money she had given him didn't seem to be enough. He complained that the job he found wasn't paying him well, and that he needed more help. Feeling cornered and overwhelmed, Bimbo used her contacts to find him a better job, hoping it would put an end to his demands. But even then, Kevin called her constantly, asking for more. He claimed he couldn't make ends meet, that life was still hard for him. Bimbo felt trapped. She knew she was doing something wrong by keeping this from Alex, but every time she thought of telling him the truth, fear and shame paralyzed her. How could she explain her reasons without sounding weak? How could she justify helping a man who had abandoned her when she needed him most? As Alex's suspicions grew, their relationship began to deteriorate. He noticed how withdrawn she had become, how their once warm and open communication now felt strained and guarded. The love and trust that had once bound them so tightly seemed to be slipping away. Then one evening, it all came crashing down. Alex had planned a special date night for him and Bimbo, hoping it would help them reconnect. He'd gone all out, preparing a romantic dinner, and even setting aside a bottle of wine they had saved for a special occasion. But as the evening grew later and Bimbo still hadn't returned home, Alex's hope turned into frustration. He tried calling her, and when she finally picked up, her voice sounded rushed. "Oh, Alex. I'm so sorry. I completely forgot about tonight. I'm working late at the office. Can we reschedule?" Alex's heart sank. He had been looking forward to the evening all week, and now she wasn't even coming home. Something inside him snapped, and for the first time, his suspicions overpowered his trust. Without thinking much, Alex grabbed his car keys and headed for Bimbo's office. The feeling of betrayal loomed heavily in his chest. He had been patient, had given her space, but tonight felt different. He needed answers. When he arrived at the office, he didn't bother waiting outside or giving her a heads-up. Instead, he marched straight to her office, his emotions swirling with a mix of anger, hurt, and confusion. He pushed open the door without knocking. And there she was, Bimbo, sitting at her desk, across from none other than Kevin. They were just talking, but the sight of them together sent a wave of betrayal crashing over Alex. Bimbo froze, her face draining of color, as she saw him standing in the doorway. Kevin, too, looked startled, but he remained silent, observing the tension in the room. "Alex," Bimbo's voice was soft, laced with guilt. "It's not what you think." But Alex didn't say a word. His expression was unreadable, but the hurt in his eyes spoke volumes. Without a word, he turned and walked out of the office, leaving Bimbo standing there, frozen in place. When Alex stormed out of Bimbo's office that night, Bimbo felt her heart drop. She couldn't just let him leave like that. Without a second thought, she ran after him, her footsteps echoing through the quiet halls of the office building. The sight of him walking away so swiftly, his shoulders tense, sent a wave of panic through her. "Alex," she called out, her voice desperate as she hurried to catch up. "Please wait." But he didn't stop. He didn't even glance back. The weight of the moment crushed her, knowing she might have hurt the one person who had been her constant through everything. When she finally reached the parking lot, Alex was already in his car, pulling away. Her cries were drowned out by the hum of the engine as he disappeared into the night. Bimbo didn't waste any more time. She rushed to her car and drove straight home, her mind racing with how she would explain, how she could make him understand that there was nothing between her and Kevin, that she had only been trying to deal with the mess he had left behind. Her heart pounded as she pulled into the driveway, hoping that Alex hadn't gone far. When she opened the door to their house, she found Alex inside, packing his belongings. Her heart shattered at the sight of him throwing clothes into a suitcase, his face grim and set in cold determination. "Alex, please," she begged, rushing to his side. "Don't do this. Let me explain." He didn't look up, his movements quick and harsh. "Explain what, Bimbo?" "I saw you with him," he said, his voice flat, but filled with a pain that cut her deeper than anything else. "I didn't invite him." Bimbo cried, standing in front of him, trying to block his path. "He just showed up, Alex. I swear I wasn't hiding anything from you. I wasn't doing anything wrong." Alex paused for a moment, his eyes finally meeting hers. The hurt in his gaze was undeniable, and Bimbo could see just how deeply she had wounded him. "Then why didn't you tell me?" he asked quietly. "Why didn't you just tell me that Kevin contacted you? You've been acting strange for weeks, keeping secrets, and now this." Tears filled Bimbo's eyes as she shook her head. "I didn't want to burden you. You've been so good to me, and I didn't want to drag you into the mess Kevin left behind. I thought I could handle it on my own, but I see now that I should have told you." Alex's face softened for a brief moment, but the walls were already up. He zipped his suitcase closed and stood tall, looking down at her with a mix of sadness and disappointment. "Secrets are what ruin relationships, Bimbo. I thought we were past all of that, but clearly, you didn't trust me enough to share this with me." Bimbo grabbed his hand, holding on desperately. "I do trust you, Alex. I love you more than anything. Please, don't leave like this." Alex's eyes flickered with emotion, but he gently pulled his hand away from hers. "I need some time, Bimbo," he said quietly. "I can't stay here right now. I need to clear my head." "Alex, please," Bimbo's voice broke, tears streaming down her face. "Don't go. I'm sorry. I'll do anything to fix this." But Alex was resolute. He slung the strap of his bag over his shoulder, his expression pained but firm. "I need space, Bimbo. I'm sorry." Without another word, he walked past her, heading for the door. Bimbo followed him to the threshold, her heart shattering with each step he took. She watched helplessly as he opened the door and stepped out into the night, the silence of his departure deafening. The door closed softly behind him, leaving Bimbo standing there, alone in the house that once felt like a home. She sank to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably, her chest tight with regret. She had hurt the one person who had stood by her through everything, and now, she didn't know if she could ever make things right again. She cried for hours, her tears soaking the sheets as she replayed everything in her mind. She had let Kevin back into her life, allowed him to manipulate her, and now she had lost Alex, the one person who had been there for her through it all. Bimbo sat on the couch, her heart heavy with guilt and sorrow, staring at the door where Alex had left. The silence in the house felt suffocating. She had never felt so alone, even in the months after waking from her coma. But tonight, the absence of Alex cut deeper than anything she had felt before. She didn't know how to fix this, how to undo the damage she had caused. Alex's mother, who had been living with them for some time, came into the living room. She had heard the commotion, the strained conversation between her son and Bimbo, and then the door closing as Alex left. Her wise, knowing eyes took in the scene, Bimbo, sitting with her face buried in her hands, tears still fresh on her cheeks. "Bimbo, my dear," Alex's mother said softly, sitting down beside her, "what happened? Where did Alex go?" Bimbo looked up, her vision blurry from crying. The weight of the truth was too much to bear alone, and Alex's mother had always been kind to her, treating her like her own daughter. Bimbo took a deep breath, wiping away the tears before she spoke. "I've messed up," Bimbo began, her voice trembling. "Kevin came back into my life, and I didn't tell Alex. I thought I was helping him. He lost everything after I fired him, and he kept coming to me, asking for money and favors. I felt trapped, but I didn't want to involve Alex. He has done so much for me, and I didn't want to burden him with the mess Kevin left behind after stealing from the company." Alex's mother listened patiently, her face filled with concern but no judgment. Bimbo continued, "Tonight, Alex found me with Kevin at the office. I didn't invite him. Kevin showed up because he needed more help. He said he lost the job I found for him because he complained too much about the salary. And when I asked him how he even knew I was at the office so late, he admitted that he knew how to track my phone." She paused, her voice cracking with emotion. "I didn't want him there, I swear. But Alex thinks. I don't know what he thinks. He left without saying a word, and now I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose him, but I feel like I already have." Alex's mother sighed, her heart going out to the young woman sitting beside her. She placed a comforting hand on Bimbo's shoulder, offering her support in the only way she could. "You've been through so much, Bimbo," she said gently. "You've worked hard to rebuild your life after everything Kevin put you through. I know my son, he loves you deeply, but he's hurt right now. You did nothing wrong by refusing to help Kevin, but secrets have a way of eroding trust." Bimbo nodded, her head hanging low. I didn't want to burden Alex with more problems. He's done so much for me, and I thought I could handle it on my own." "I understand that," Alex's mother said, her voice soft with empathy. "But relationships are about sharing the good and the bad. Alex has been your rock, but he also needs to know what's weighing on your heart. Hiding things, even with the best of intentions, can hurt more than the truth ever could." Bimbo took in the words, her mind heavy with the realization of what had transpired. "I won't help Kevin anymore," she said firmly, her resolve growing stronger. "He's caused enough damage. I've worked too hard to fix the mess he left behind, and I won't let him come between me and Alex." Alex's mother smiled softly and nodded. "That's the right decision, my dear. Kevin made his choices, and now he has to live with them. You've done more than enough to help him. You owe it to yourself and to Alex to move forward, without that weight dragging you down." Bimbo wiped her eyes again, feeling a small sense of relief at having confided in Alex's mother. She felt a glimmer of hope, but the thought of Alex walking away still haunted her. She didn't know how to reach him, how to apologize, and how to explain that it wasn't what he thought. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice still shaky. "I just hope I haven't lost him for good." Alex's mother pulled her into a comforting hug, her presence warm and reassuring. Give him some time, she said gently. He'll come around. He knows you love him. As Bimbo sat in Alex's mother's embrace, she silently prayed that those words were true. The thought of losing Alex, after everything they had been through together, was too painful to bear. But for now, all she could do was wait and hope that somehow, they could find their way back to each other. The next day, Alex returned to the house, this time to take his mother and gather the rest of his belongings. His expression was distant, and his heart was still heavy with everything that had transpired the night before. He didn't want to confront Bimbo again, but as he packed up his things, his mother watched him quietly from the kitchen. Alex, his mother finally said, her voice soft but firm, you can't just leave like this without hearing her out. I did, Mom, he replied, his tone strained as he folded another shirt into his bag. She lied to me. I saw it with my own eyes. Did she lie? His mother pressed. Or did she just make a mistake in trying to protect you from her past? You know how much that man hurt her, and you've seen how hard she's worked to rebuild her life. Maybe you should give her the chance to explain. Alex paused, his hands stilling over his bag. He sighed heavily, the weight of his mother's words sinking in. I don't know, Mom. It's hard to trust after something like that. His mother walked over to him, placing a gentle hand on his arm. You love her, don't you? Alex nodded, his heart aching. More than anything. Then don't throw that love away because of one mistake. Hear her out. You'll regret it if you don't. After a moment of hesitation, Alex sighed again, rubbing the back of his neck. Fine. I'll talk to her. His mother smiled softly, relieved that he was willing to give Bimbo a chance. As if sensing the shift, Bimbo quietly appeared in the doorway of their home, her face still etched with worry and pain. She had been dreading this moment, unsure if Alex would ever want to listen to her. Alex, she said quietly, her voice thick with emotion, can we please talk? He nodded, and they sat down at the kitchen table. Bimbo took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest as she tried to find the right words. I didn't invite Kevin, she began, her voice trembling slightly. He came because he somehow figured out where I was. I was as shocked as you were. I didn't want anything to do with him, Alex. I promise. Alex watched her, his expression unreadable, but his eyes locked on hers. He could see the pain etched across her face, the raw emotion she couldn't hide. It was then that he realized how deeply Kevin's reappearance had affected her. I've been working so hard to clean up the mess he left behind, she continued, her voice barely a whisper. He stole from the company, from me, and I've been carrying that burden for too long. But I didn't want to drag you into it because I love you, and I didn't want you to feel like my past was ruining our future. Alex's heart softened. He could see the sincerity in her words, the regret and pain she had been carrying alone. Why didn't you just tell me? He asked, his voice low. Bimbo wiped a tear from her cheek. Because I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want you to feel like I couldn't handle things. But I see now that I should have been honest with you from the beginning. Alex reached out and took her hand, squeezing it gently. I would have understood. You don't have to carry that weight alone, Bimbo. I'm here for you. We're a team. Tears welled up in her eyes as she nodded, her heart swelling with relief. I'm so sorry, Alex. I never meant to hurt you. I know, he said softly, pulling her into a comforting embrace. I forgive you. But from now on, we need to be more transparent with each other. No more secrets. I promise, Bimbo whispered, holding him tightly. No more secrets. After that, Bimbo made a decision. She knew that Kevin could no longer be a part of her life. He had chosen to betray her, to abandon her when she needed him most, and she couldn't let him continue to disrupt the life she was building with Alex. She met with Kevin one final time and made things clear. You belong to my past, she told him firmly. I've moved on, and so should you. I don't want any more contact with you. You made your choice, and now I've made mine. Alex is my future. Kevin, who had hoped for a different outcome, was left standing in disbelief. His situation was dire, and without Bimbo's help, he was forced to face the consequences of his actions alone. The life he had thrown away for someone who didn't truly love him was now out of his reach, and he had no one to blame but himself. Bimbo and Alex, on the other hand, grew stronger together. They rebuilt their relationship on a foundation of trust and love, vowing never to let anyone or anything come between them again. Their bond deepened, and soon they were blessed with a beautiful baby boy, a symbol of the life and future they were building together. They lived happily, surrounded by love and peace, knowing that their past didn't define them. It was their love, resilience, and commitment to each other that made them stronger than ever. After Bimbo firmly shut the door on Kevin and their past, he found himself spiraling deeper into despair. With no job, no money, and no support, he desperately sought someone who could help him. His thoughts drifted back to Malika, the woman he had abandoned Bimbo for, the woman who had once reveled in luxury and extravagance at his expense. Perhaps, he thought, she could be of some assistance now. Determined, Kevin tried reaching out to Malika, only to discover some shocking news. Malika had been arrested and was serving time in prison. She had been caught trying to steal from the home of one of her wealthy conquests. It turned out that when her charms and beauty failed to secure her the wealth and comfort she desired, she resorted to theft, hoping to take what she could not earn. But her scheme didn't go as planned. She had been caught red-handed by her latest victim, a wealthy businessman who wasted no time pressing charges. Now, Malika was paying the price for her greed, locked behind bars and facing the consequences of her choices. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like, comment, and share the video. Also subscribe to our channel, and click on the notification bell, so you won't miss our next video. Bye bye.